You are listening to The Rant with David King.
We hold these truths to be self-evident. All men and women created by you know the thing.
Doggy do on his shoes.
Billy's dad is a fudge packer.
Millions, as you witnessed, who are scared right now. What do you say to Americans who are watching you right now who are scared?
I say that you're a terrible reporter. That's what I say. Go ahead.
I've been saying it. I've been saying it for 10 damn years. Ain't I been saying it, Miguel? Huh? I've been saying it.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to The Rant. I'm your host, David King. It is good to be here with you this week. So much going on in the world. So much to talk about. And yet, not enough time. There's so much going on. It kind of goes without saying that, listen, what do we got going on? We got rapid inflation. That's fun. We have the Ukraine deal. We have the truckers in Canada. What else do we have? That's the big stuff. We still have COVID we're dealing with. Somehow still in 2022, we're still dealing with the COVID, which is bizarre in and of itself. And then, of course, we have a myriad of other things. So it's like, what do you want to talk about? And the thing about it is I was sitting here thinking about today's show. I was actually thinking about it yesterday, which would have been Monday. Today is Tuesday. We're doing this show late. I try to post this show up every Tuesday, guys. So just so everybody knows, the format schedule that I try to follow is that this show posts on Tuesday. Now, ideally, I like to have it post up Tuesday morning. Before you even wake up, it's already posted, which means I've recorded it on Sunday or Monday, and then it gets posted up for Tuesday. That doesn't always happen because, well, this isn't my full-time job. So I do the show when I can. And ideally, I like to do a second show on Thursday to post up for Thursday or Friday. But that doesn't always happen. So my goal is always to get at least one show out a week. And I should be able to start pumping out more when because right now I've been wrapping up a bathroom remodel. For those of you who don't know, I'm a contractor and I do renovation work, and I'm wrapping up a big bathroom remodel. And I was also building a bed in between that for a customer. Solid oak bed, man. I'm going to tell you something. This thing was beautiful. Solid oak, all white oak. And, and just to give you an idea about inflation, let's talk about that. So on the topic of wood, white oak is very common. We use it for everything down here, from building furniture to using it for smoking. You can buy it as firewood. It is plentiful in the South and just about everywhere in the United States. But yet, it apparently is in such high demand that white oak is now $8 a board foot. So just to give you a kind of an idea of like, well, is that a lot of money, $8 a board foot? It's a tremendous amount of money for oak. Mahogany, African mahogany. Now, you've heard of mahogany. It's like, oh, this is a desk. It's made out of mahogany. It's fancy. Yes. And so you hear mahogany, you think, oh, that's fancy and that's expensive. Well, mahogany is cheaper than white oak. In fact, mahogany is like $5 a board foot. We officially live in an upside down world, folks. When you have gone to the lumber mill to get wood to build a bed and the white oak is more expensive than mahogany, well, we have a problem. So, I don't know. It's a weird world. So I built this bed, and it was good. It's a nice bed. But unfortunately, so one of the things that I like to do when I build furniture is I like to build it in such a way where it's custom to the point where it's custom to the finish and the fit, if that makes sense. So if I'm building a bed frame for you, I want it to fit your mattress. I don't want it to be a generic size where when you put your mattress in there, there's a lot of play and the mattress kind of moves around, which you'll see with a lot of generic furniture when you go out in town to like an IKEA or something. Sometimes they'll have adjustments where you can adjust it in and out to help it get a tighter fit, but sometimes it's not good enough and your mattress will kind of float. And nobody wants a mattress that floats. It's just, I don't know. If you're going to pay $3,000 to $4,000 for a bed frame, it should be a nice fitting fit and finish bed frame. And so the customer agreed with me on that. And when we measured the mattress, you think of a mattress, it's square or rectangle. And so you measure each side, you measure the length, you measure the width, you measure the box frame as well. You write that down and then you allocate and make sure you have enough space. So it still has some play and it allows for the bed sheets to fit in, so you can tuck your hand in there and tuck them in. Well, unfortunately, this particular mattress, which was a Tempur-Pedic, no bash against the company, but just it was a Tempur-Pedic mattress, apparently it flares out in the middle just enough. You can't tell. You couldn't tell it until you put it in this frame. So it flares out in the middle. So the mattress itself was very snug. It fit, but barely. Like you couldn't barely fit your fingers between the mattress and the side skirts, which were solid oak. So it wasn't very comfortable to get your hand in there, and there was really no room to tuck in any of the sheets. And they had an oversized comforter or something like that, so that was not going to work. So that was a problem. But the biggest issue, and you probably could overlook it if you were the customer. You're like, it's not a big deal. We'll just get in there and tuck it in, and we'll figure it out. But the issue was the box frames. The box frames from Tempur-Pedic, which you have to use their box frame apparently, or you void the warranty. Go figure. They taper out at the bottom. So it's not like a perfectly square rectangle on the sides. The picture almost like a trapezoid, and it's just enough where you can't see it. So where we measured in the wrong spot. So they don't fit at all. And so guess what has to happen? Because of the design of the bed frame and the way I built it, the whole thing has to be rebuilt. So now I am stuck with a bed frame of solid white oak, and I'm going to try to sell it. But I was working on a bathroom remodel, so it's been very hard to have a lot of time to do 2 shows a week, and on top of the No Apology show. So you have to remember, I do 2 shows of The Rant, and then I have a show on Sunday, and I've been trying to get the Wednesday show going, but it's been very, very difficult to do that too. But hopefully the Wednesday show of No Apologetics will be coming soon as well. So look forward to that. And unfortunately, I got sick, Omicron more than likely, earlier a couple of weeks ago, which prevented me from doing the podcast, which took away my voice. That was the real reason why I couldn't do it. I couldn't speak. And then now this week, unfortunately, my wife's grandfather has passed away. We knew it was coming. Unfortunately, we knew that he was not doing well. He wasn't himself. He was very much out of it. They had him on morphine and things for pain. And so he passed on Monday morning at 4:40. It is extremely difficult. My wife has lost 2 grandparents who she was very close to within a matter of 6 or 8 months. I know her granny passed away over the summer of last year, and that was very difficult, as she was very, very close to her granny. And her granny was a sweet lady. That would be my father-in-law's mother. Her pawpaw, who just passed away yesterday, that's her mother's. That would be my mother-in-law's father. So I never got to meet my father-in-law's dad. He passed away before I met him. But, my wife was very close to her, and she was just the sweetest lady. So it was tough to see her go through what she went through. And then again, the same thing with her pawpaw. Just a tremendous man. I was so blessed to have gotten to know him as much as I did. I met my wife about 9 years ago. We've been married 8 years and going on 8 years. And so getting to know him was a real treat. He reminded me a lot of my Grandpa King, just real old school, kind of tough. He was Army, Korean War veteran. And the guy worked to the day he died. He lived to be almost 90. I think he was 89. He was going to be turning 90 very soon. And this was a man that up until about 4 or 5 months ago, when he got real sick, he was out there tending the farm. He had a horse. He had a garden, which is not a garden that you think of. It's a garden that he uses a tractor to till up. Let's just put it that way. It's not a garden. It's like a small farm. And he would work it. And on top of taking care of the house, this was a man who was not afraid of hard work, worked his whole life. And, in many ways I've said it, and I'll keep saying it, is that everybody wants to retire. And that's fine. I think it's good that you want to retire, but don't ever stop moving. Don't stop really working. Get a hobby. You don't have to go work for the man or anything, but do something. But get up and move. My Grandpa King, God bless the man, when he retired, I think he worked around the house like a normal person doing chores around the home. But I think part of his problem was he stopped moving around as much. And he had knee issues and shoulder issues, so he had to get surgery. And we've seen this with other elderly people who just kind of retire to the couch and don't move very much. They don't tend to live very long because they stop moving. And moving is a big part. Your body, is like an automobile. If you park that car in a garage and you never drive it, it's going to have issues. The battery will go dead, the tires will go flat, and it may not run. So you want to run it every once in a blue moon. The same thing with your body. You want to keep moving. And her pawpaw did that. He was a heck of a worker and just an interesting man. Always had great stories to tell. And I loved to sit there on the porch and listen to him speak and just hear what he had to say. And so I'm going to miss that. And I feel just tremendously terrible for my wife. She's been through so much. She's lost friends through illness. She's lost family members. It's just been a very rough couple of years for her. Her business was affected very, just greatly by COVID. And so just for everybody out there, if you could pray for her and her mother and her family during this time, that'd be much appreciated. And just, and we appreciate all that. And so more than likely there will not be a second rant this week just because of the time. I'll try to do it, but the funeral is this Friday and I have to get work done on this bathroom remodel so I can wrap that up and go to the funeral. On a lighter note, that's, what we're dealing with here. Excuse me. And so I was thinking about the podcast today and I thought, well, what are we going to talk about, man? And, I wanted to get on here and talk about Russia and Ukraine. First and foremost, before I even get to that, everybody knows what's going on with the trucker convoy. I just want to say first and foremost that for what it's worth, I 100% support the truckers in Canada and what they're doing. You can sit here and you can believe what Trudeau's saying, or you can watch the videos for yourself and see the truth. And the truth of the matter is these are peaceful protests. Yes, they're blocking roads. Yes, they have cut off services and goods. They are the truck drivers. These are the men and women who transport the goods that we need in our lives every day. And they are protesting the mandates that they have to be vaccinated in order to go cross country. And the reality is it's an unnecessary mandate. In this country, it would be an unconstitutional mandate. And so I think it's fantastic that these men and women are risking their livelihoods and they're standing up for something that they believe in, that I believe is 100% a great thing to stand up for, because you should never be told what to put into your body. Nobody should be able to force you to put any kind of vaccination or medicine or drug into your body. You should be allowed to say no. Either it will kill you or not. It is your right to do so. And the fact of the matter is that if anyone is cut off from the outside world on a daily basis, It's truck drivers. They drive hours and hours and hours a day to by themselves to and from where they're going. So they have very little human contact. These are not people that you should be imposing mandates. But we all know that this isn't really about COVID and protecting people. This is really just about flexing and a leader, a prime minister like Trudeau, who, you know, is a Castro sympathizer, is a friend of Castro. He is a friend of, for the lack of a better word, he's a friend of tyranny. This is a man who loves power. He demands that you listen to him. He demands that he has control over your life. And this is just one way of him to flex that ability and do that. And it's just not, it's inappropriate. The truckers' lives are now being threatened. They have threatened to freeze bank accounts, pull insurance on truck drivers, pull certifications. In other words, the licenses for these men to drive, the CDLs to drive the trucks. They have threatened to cancel those or revoke them rather. So the government is using tyranny to, and the thing about it is this is a very simple negotiation. Remove the mandates. We know that the vaccinations do not work. We know that the vaccinations help in mitigating disaster. In other words, if you are vaccinated and you're somebody with a pre-existing condition, maybe you had cancer, maybe you're morbidly obese or something of that nature, we know that if you get the vaccination, it will lessen your symptoms of COVID, but it will not prevent you from contracting COVID. And it certainly did not prevent you from contracting Omicron. Everybody got Omicron. But the good news was, is if you were vaccinated, you probably had very few or little to no symptoms. I am not vaccinated at all. And when I got Omicron, it was just like I got a bad cold and it was gone. Not a big deal. And that was the case for a lot of people. But the fact of the matter is we know the vaccination does not work in terms of stopping the spread. It will continue. You will continue to spread the virus to everybody. So this is not about protecting anyone. So it's very simple. Remove the mandates and you will have the truckers will get in their trucks and go home. But instead of doing that, and by the way, Trudeau he hasn't showed up. He went into hiding for some time. He was heckled out of Parliament. This is a man who hasn't come to the table to negotiate anything with the truck drivers. Instead of trying to negotiate and say, let me hear your voices because you're clearly upset and I represent you, he's enforcing tyrannical mandates. He's using Emergency Act powers to freeze bank accounts, revoke licenses, and have insurance companies drop coverages. And the thing about it is this should concern everybody in the world. Everybody says, well, that's Canada, who cares? But you have to understand that's literally right across our border. And it would not take anything for our own government, our own insurance companies, our own banking institutions to try and follow suit. After all, look at GoFundMe. GoFundMe is not a banking institution or an insurance company. They're a private organization. But look what they did. They said, we're not going to give the money that was donated to the truckers. We're not going to give it to the truckers. We're going to give it to our own charity. We'll pick it. Well, that's highly illegal because that's not their money to just give away where they want. It's absurd that they even tried to do that. And yet they did. What's to stop a bank from saying, hey, you voted for Trump or you're against the vaccine mandates or you're against wearing a mask or whatever political position you may take? We're going to freeze your bank account because now you've been labeled as a terrorist. You're now under investigation. You may say, well, David, I'm not a terrorist. I'm just saying I have the right to free speech. You certainly do have the right to free speech in this country. But the government, because it's what governments do, will find a way to make your life miserable. They will freeze your bank accounts. They will use insurance companies to drop your coverages or raise your rates or make it where you are uninsurable. And they'll do this and it may be temporary and you may have to go to court or go to Supreme Court or wherever it may go to in order for you to file a suit against the federal government for doing such a thing or suing a bank for doing such a thing. And maybe eventually you will win, but it will cost you so much time and so many of your resources that you'll never dare speak out again because you'll be like, I don't want to go through that again. Or maybe they say you're on a terrorist watch list because we believe you were in DC on January 6th. Maybe You didn't storm the Capitol, but you were there. And we don't really know if you were at the Capitol. So we've frozen your bank account. So you're now under investigation. And by the way, we have justified this. So you're more than welcome to appeal it, but it's going to take you months. And in the meantime, you won't have access to your money. And eventually we'll give in and we'll release everything and we'll go our separate way. But it won't be until we completely screw your life up. And it could take 6 to 8 to 12 months. And believe me when I tell you this, the federal government, as it stands right now, will have no issue in doing that. They've become hyper tyrannical over this COVID situation. January 6th, they use as an excuse to exacerbate and grow in their power. Canada is just a precursor to what is going to happen around the world. And the United States will try to do the same exact thing. Why? Because the Democrats have said as much. Even some Republicans. The people in power are not interested in following the Constitution. They're more interested in containing their own power and telling you what to do. So I support the truckers. And I have yet to see the article, but I've heard that there's a convoy of truckers going to D.C. as we speak from Los Angeles to D.C. for Biden's State of the Union address, and they are going to formulate a blockade around the White House. They're not going to be near the Capitol, but they will be around the White House and the mall. I support their right to protest peacefully. Understand what I'm saying. Because if anybody ever hears this podcast and they want to cut and splice and make me sound like some heretic or some radical, understand what I am saying. I respect and I stand by the right of every American and every Canadian to protest peacefully. If they feel that there's been an injustice done to them by their federal government, or in our case, state government, local government, then they have the right to stand up against them peacefully and protest within the confines of the law. I do not believe that there's a situation right now in this country that justifies any sort of violence. Certainly, it could get to that one day, but that is not where we are today. I do not believe that we should be protesting violently in any way. I do not agree with the people that stormed the Capitol, who went inside the building. I do not agree with those who broke the building or broke windows and tore down or tried to tear down statues or broke into offices. I do not agree with those people. I think that was a stupid decision. I don't believe it was an insurrection or a coup because it's ridiculous. I just think it was a bunch of idiots. And believe me, they're all regretting their decisions of what they did now. But I support the men and women who stood on the stairs of that Capitol waving an American flag. I support the men and women who were standing in the mall that day waving American flags and chanting for freedom, protesting peacefully within their right to do so. And I support these truckers in Canada and the ones here whenever those decide to show up, if they do. I support the peaceful protests of Black Lives Matter. You know, the protesters of during the daytime, they have every right to go out on the street and protest during the day with their signs, and they can, with their blowhorns or whatever they want to do, as long as it's peaceful, as long as it's within the confines of the law. I do not support the protesters who burned down buildings, looted businesses, and caused mayhem and destruction, potentially killed or maimed people, including police officers who are just there trying to do their job to keep everybody contained from keeping their city from burning down. I do not support that. And I won't. Not at all. So that's my stance on the truckers. As far as I can tell, they have made a serious ripple effect, not only in Canada, but in the world. They have really, really ruffled the feathers of that government. So it's pretty interesting to see. And it's exciting in many ways because it's people doing, it is exciting. How should I phrase this? It's exciting to see blue-blooded people stand up and are willing to sacrifice their well-being for the greater good. You don't often see that. You see people protest all the time, but generally speaking, more often than not, the protests are in vain and they tend to get violent and they're just kind of about things that generally aren't even, it's a half truth, or some of those people don't even know why they're there. It just seems very confused and unorganized, but this is very organized, and this is very purposeful, and it's, they know what they're doing, and they know what they're risking, but yet they're doing it anyway. And that is amazing. That is truly an astonishing thing to witness. This is no different than, well, it's much different because it wasn't violent. The Tea Party was a violent, uprising in the colony during the colonies. It wasn't something that was even really applauded by our founding fathers, but the men who dumped that tea in the harbor were risking their livelihoods and jail time to make a statement about the unfair treatment to the colonies and the people of the colonies. This is something very similar, but not nearly, in my opinion, as much as it's not very much a riot as the Boston Tea Party was. But you don't see that very often. You don't really see people willing to sacrifice their own well-being for the greater good in terms of standing up against a tyrannical force or standing up against evil. You see it all the day in the military. You see we fight wars and World War II and things of that nature, but you don't really generally see John Q. Public, the man, just the average Joe, if you will, saying, you know what, I'm going to risk my job and my livelihood to stand up and say, I'm not going to stand for this anymore. I'm not going to put up with these senseless mandates or these senseless laws and these rules that are affecting me and my family, and they're going to continue to affect my family well after I'm gone. And it could lead down a dark path that I don't want my children to inherit. I feel very bad for our kids. They have no idea what they're getting themselves. The path that we are headed down in the world, and especially in this country, our children are going to suffer greatly for it. And they have no idea. And in terms of the Russian thing, I have thought about, do I want to talk about Russia? And the short answer is not really. And here's the reason why. First and foremost, I don't know what the hell's going on in Russia. I have watched the news. I have done my research. You have everybody in America is telling us, well, it's any day now, Russia's going to invade Ukraine. Well, they've been saying that for 2 or 3 weeks. And from an outsider's perspective looking in, a guy who has no, military intelligence at hand, I'm not connected to DC. I don't have a direct line to Putin. I don't have a direct line to Biden. I don't know any more than probably you do watching the news. And quite frankly, the news it's just confusing. It's unclear really what the hell is going on. And from an outsider's perspective, it just seems to me that it's Biden, one, using this as an opportunity to distract us from the fact that his policies and some of that he has put into place are flushing this country into a toilet. We are approaching some very dangerous times ahead of us financially. But I also think this could very well just be Putin messing with Biden, seeing how far he can push the boundaries with Joe Biden. He would never have dared done this with Trump. He never did. We never had this issue under Trump because Trump wouldn't have put up with it. But with Biden, well, we know that there's uncertainty there. We really have no idea how Biden will handle a crisis. And I can tell you so far, he's handled this one very poorly. Now, today he announced that he's going to be placing sanctions on Russia. Russia has not technically invaded Ukraine, but Biden says he has, so they're going to initiate a first wave of sanctions. I believe these sanctions will not matter. In fact, it's very likely that these sanctions are going to hurt us. It's going to hurt the world economy more than it's really going to hurt Russia. The fact of the matter is Russia has dealt with sanctions before, and they get through them relatively well in comparison to what people would probably expect. I do not think if in fact Putin is hell bent on invading Ukraine, he is not going to stop because of sanctions. If anything, the sanctions may exacerbate the issue. And from what I can tell, the only reason why Putin wants Ukraine is because he believes that land belongs to Russia. And so you could say, well, that's a very foolish reason to start a war. Well, Hitler invaded other countries for basically the same reasons. Hitler was very upset about the outcome of World War I and felt that Germany was treated unfairly. And so he went out of his way to right that wrong. And we saw what happened there. And there were other reasons for things that he did. It's beyond just that. But certainly he was upset with the way the land deals and everything went down after World War I. But nonetheless, as foolish as it seems for Putin to do that, I would not put it past him. After all, he's ex-KGB, and I'm sure he would have loved nothing more than to invade Russia, Ukraine and take it back for Russia and do it and continue to do that. So, after all, we really don't know what's going on. We have no idea. We don't know who's telling the truth. We don't know if the media is telling the truth or Biden's telling the truth. The media seems to be echoing what Biden is saying. Russia, in the very beginning, said we're not going to invade Ukraine, but then Biden was saying they're going to invade Ukraine, and then the media is like, well, who knows what they're going to do? And it seems like it could happen at any moment. It feels that way. When you look at the way his troop movements are and what's going on, it seems like it could happen. My biggest concern is not the invasion in Ukraine. I do not believe we should have anything to do with the invasion of Ukraine. The United States does not need to get involved with this situation. It just doesn't need to. We have no choice because Biden is bought and paid for by Ukrainians. We found that out through his son's laptop, which was conveniently ignored. Well, guess what? Those chickens are coming home to roost. All the money that the Biden family has made from Ukraine, well, guess what? It's time to come back and time to meet your obligations. We've paid you the money. We want your protection. And there's more to that as well. There's some weird, shady deals that have gone down in the past, back in 2014, between Clinton, Obama, and a few other people. And it's very likely that Putin knows these deals. He said so as so much as he said cryptically in his speech today. He said, those of you who know what you have done, and he very well may have been speaking about the deal that was made back in 2014. I don't know. It's merely speculation. But the reality of it is there's a lot of people in our country who are political power in political power who have obligations to Ukraine or an obligation to hide what they've done with Ukraine and dealing with Russia. So that may very well be why we're involved. But I don't believe the United States has any business being involved with this at all. It is not worth one American life to go over there and fight against this senseless land grab by Russia. There's nothing. There's no gain for us, period. As far as I'm concerned, Russia can have Ukraine back. I don't care. And if Ukraine doesn't want to submit to Russia, then it's on them to fight the battle, not us. We need to stop being the world's police. We need to stop being the world's mediator, the one that goes and fights the battles for everybody else. It's time everybody learns to fight their own battles, to beat up on the bullies themselves. America can't fight the bully anymore. We need to cut that out. But alas, I have no say in that. And if Russia attacks Ukraine, well, you better well bet your butt we're going to be over there fighting and helping the Ukrainians in some way. But my concern overall is these sanctions are putting a strain on the world economy. For instance, Russia is one of the largest exporters of wheat. So it's very likely that if you enjoy any wheat-based product, which I do not anymore, I'll talk more about that in a little bit. If you enjoy a wheat-based product, you're very likely to start paying a little bit more than you already are. So you've already dealt with inflation. Your cost of bread has gone up. Cost of milk has gone up. Cost of meat's gone up. Well, guess what? Now that there's a wheat shortage because of these sanctions with Russia, it's very, very likely that you're going to be paying more for wheat-based product. Germany, the pipeline going from Russia to Germany to give Germany fuel and oil because Germany's a bunch of idiots and decided, well, we're going to stop buying and selling and producing oil, and we're going to switch to solar and air. And we found out, well, that didn't really quite work out too well because solar and air are both very unreliable. So now we have to import oil from another country, and where we were going to make a deal with Russia, well, now that deal's off the table because of what Russia's doing in Ukraine. Do you think Russia cares? Absolutely not. They've got Germany by the balls. They know that there is nowhere else Germany's going to be able to go to get oil for as cheap as they were going to get it from Russia. Not going to come from OPEC, and it's definitely not coming from the United States. Now, see, in this situation, we could supplement that and help Germany out. The Germans are going to suffer big time. Their energy costs are going to go through the roof. It's going to be crippling for Germany. There's no telling what untold consequences there's going to be from this pipeline not happening. It's Germany's fault. It's also the United States' fault, because while Biden has issued these sanctions on Russia, which will not allow us to do any trade with Russia as long as they're bucking up to Ukraine, what's basically going to happen is that means no oil for anybody from Russia. And here's the deal. Germany's going to suffer. We could give oil to Germany to help supplement that and help them during this time of the sanctions, but we're no longer a net exporter of oil because of Biden's policies. You see, before Biden took office, the United States was a net exporter of oil. We were producing so much oil that we were able to sell it to the world. We had more oil than we knew what to do with. That's why our gas prices were so low. Well, he nipped that in the butt very soon after he was elected president. He canceled the Keystone Pipeline. And he's making proclamations that we're going to be green by 2035 and all these other things. Well, guess what? The United States is no longer a net export of oil. We're getting all of our oil from Saudi Arabia. In fact, Joe Biden decided he'd call up the OPEC and say, "Hey, do you guys think you could lower your prices on the barrel of oil right now, since everybody's kind of hurting? Could you do that?" And they laughed, I'm sure, and hung up the phone on him. This man has no idea how economics works. The supply and demand are full tilt. The demand is through the roof. The supply cannot keep up. OPEC has us all by the balls now because of these policies. Listen to me when I say this. I have no issue with green energy. I have no issue with wind and solar. I think it's a great supplement to what we're doing now. I have no issue with anyone ever saying, I think that we need to find a way to get off of fossil fuel. Fine, fair enough. Let's do it, but we can't force it. We need to find something that's actually going to fully transition from oil to a green energy that is as efficient and reliable as fossil fuel. It's just the way it has to be. You can't just force us onto wind and solar because they don't work. They're not consistent enough to work. That's why California has rolling brownouts and has to buy their power from surrounding states. These are the policies that are crippling us, and it's going to continue to affect us even more. It's very likely, they're saying now that it is very likely that gas prices in the United States are going to reach $5 a gallon nationwide. It's already $5 a gallon in California. But they're saying it's very likely that it could hit $5 a gallon nationwide because of these sanctions, and it would more than likely definitely happen in the event that there's an attack on Ukraine. Because there's going to be even more sanctions, I'm sure. The fact of the matter is the policies of this administration and his shady deals from his past are all coming to haunt us, and it's all going to hurt us. I don't care if you like Trump. I don't care if you are a Republican or a Democrat or a Libertarian. It doesn't matter. The fact of the matter is DC is leading us down a very, very dark path. The policies and the ideas and the decisions coming out of Washington, D.C. right now are atrocious. It's going to lead us into another war, potentially a World War III. It's already brought us record levels of inflation, shortage of goods, draconian lockdowns, and now we're looking at energy costs going through the roof, including gas going up to $5 a gallon. Will it stop there? Who knows? This whole thing is just asinine. We know we had no new wars in 4 years under Donald Trump. There wasn't even a talk of a war. It was a talk of collusion with Russia, and they never could prove it. But we never had talks of war with Russia, and we never had talks of war with anybody else. And now here we are, barely into year 2 of Biden, and we're on the brink of war. Fantastic. Thanks, you senile old man. Who, by the way, today gave a speech talking about, putting on sanctions to Russia because they, quote, invaded Ukraine. He could barely put together a coherent sentence. You could tell he was reading from a prompter. He didn't look at the camera. He slurred his words the entire time. He was misreading what was put on the prompter, which was supposed to sound authentic and from the cuff, which didn't because he was reading it and he can't barely put these words together. This is the man that's leading our country. Thank you so much. But you know what? At least he doesn't send mean tweets. At least he's not the angry orange man. Thank you so much, America, for voting for this lunatic. Fantastic. We will reap what we sow. And as far as I'm concerned, if you voted for this asshole, that's your bed. You made it. Sleep in it. I want to pivot because I think it's really important. I saw this video the other day, and it kind of went viral. And I thought it was interesting. First and foremost, if anybody's been listening to this podcast, they know that I've been talking about diet and exercise and working, it was the whole new year, new you situation in January. And I kind of want to talk a little bit about that again. I saw some things pop up and it just really got my wheels turning. I was like, there was one fad diet that I didn't really talk about that I think needs to be addressed. And there's also this video that's circulating around from the Oxford Union. It was a debate with Michelle Peterson, Jordan Peterson's daughter. She held a debate at the Oxford Union on the benefits of an all-meat diet. And we'll be talking about that here soon in a few weeks, probably next month. I would like to get to that. It's called the Carnivore Code or Carnivore Diet. And I think it's pretty interesting. And we'll probably be talking a little bit about that and the benefits of that. And but she had a debate because Michelle Peterson, I might be butchering her first name, and I apologize. But she had an autoimmune disease. It was really bad from the time that she was from the time she was born, it pretty much was an onset very quickly. Things that she was having symptoms that should probably arise in, say, a 65-year-old. She was having these symptoms come up in her teenage years. She had her hip replacement, and I believe she had an ankle. Either her ankle was replaced with a prosthetic, or it was replaced with a prosthetic as well. And this all happened in her teenage years. Her body was essentially falling apart. She was in a great deal of pain, and she saw multiple physicians. She went all over trying to figure out how to deal with this. They had her on opioids to deal with the pain. It got so bad because ibuprofen wasn't working. I mean, they were dealing, this is a teenage girl, very young teenage girl doing opioids. She was doing, they had her prescribed oxycodone because, Tylenol 3s didn't work, and ibuprofen definitely wasn't doing anything. And she was in such a tremendous amount of pain. She was just from her father's recollection of it, he said she was just in brutal, agonizing pain to the point where she could not take it, couldn't sleep, couldn't do anything. And her body was just falling apart. And so everything she tried, nothing quite really was working in terms of managing this disease she had. She tried everything from medications. She had a whole, slew of medications to try to manage it. None of it was really doing it. It made it tolerable, I think, at best, is what she was saying. And from what it sounds like, she wasn't going to get better. It was just going to continue to get worse. And so through her research and studies, she realized she found some things where people were managing her type of illness through diet. And so she went on this very strict diet of all meat. All meat. So it's all beef. I think she eats nothing but beef and lamb. That's all she eats. Literally. She consumes nothing but meat. And so she did that, and she said, I'm not going to quote her, but just to summarize, within a few months, her symptoms were gone. And she thought, wow, this is unbelievable. It's a miracle. I have my symptoms are the pain, the inflammation, everything is gone. And so what she said she started to do, and I recommend you Googling this on YouTube. It was her TED Talk. She was supposed to give a TED Talk on her diet. TED Talk refuses to post it because they say it doesn't follow their guidelines, even though she says that she went out of her way to make sure she followed their guidelines to a T. They refused to post the video. Now, she believes, and I agree with her, that they're not posting it for political reasons behind her all meat diet. It's a taboo diet. They have no issue posting. They have 4 or 5 TED Talks on veganism, but they don't have anything on all meat diets. So, she would have been a very refreshing counter to the vegan talk. So she posted her TED Talk without the TED logo. She just blurred it all out, but she posted her speech anyway on YouTube. So you should look that up and watch what she has to say. But she essentially cured herself by going all meat. And her father did the same thing because her father has an autoimmune disease. And he got very, very sick over the course of last year. And he was able to basically correct it through going all meat. And he'll tell you, it's not a diet I recommend because it's extremely restrictive and it's extremely hard to do because you're literally eating nothing but meat. And you think about that, what are you willing to do to make yourself healthy? And I hear this from people all the time, which is I tell people about my diet, which is no longer a diet. I've been doing this for 3 months now. It's a lifestyle. It's the way I live. No sugar, no grain. And people go, I just couldn't do that. I could never do that. It's too restrictive. But then you have to ask yourself, well, I understand what you're saying, but what is your health worth to you? I understand if you're just someone who's a little overweight, you don't have any metabolical problems, you're generally healthy, you could stand to lose a few pounds. I could see why you wouldn't want to do the NSNG diet. But let's say you're somebody who's about to be type 2 diabetic. What if you're somebody who is type 2 diabetic and you're facing amputation, losing limbs, you're metabolically unstable, you're sick, you're morbidly obese? What are you willing to sacrifice to get healthy? The Petersons were willing to go all meat and it worked. It's astonishing. And I think we should research it and look into it more. And there's a doctor who wrote a book called Carnivore Code, which I plan on reading, and I will discuss it more on this podcast when I read that book. It will not be until late March at the earliest. I can tell you that now. Because I'm fascinated by this, because I do believe that a meat-forward diet is probably the best way to go for most people. I'm not saying everybody has to go meat only. That's ridiculous. But I'm simply saying that a meat-forward diet, to me, makes sense, and I think it's the way to go. And we'll talk more about all that later. But she did that video, and then they had a debate at the Oxford Union. She made her stance about her all meat diet and why she believes it's good to eat meat. It's not it shouldn't be frowned upon, and this is why, because it's helped her so well. And then they had a vegan come up and debate her, and the debate from this lady was absolutely absurd. The thing, Michelle Peterson, I know I am butchering her name. I'm going to look it up right now. as I feel so bad because I know I'm not getting her name right. She has a very pretty name and it's different, and that's why I'm not pronouncing it right. Let's see. Pull her up on Instagram really quick. But anyway, she presented, her story. No, it's Michaela. Michaela Peter. That's it. It's the Ayla at the end that I messed up. It's Michaela Peterson. So Mikhaila, Michaela Peterson. So anyway, she presented her story about how all this all meat diet cured her, and she posted some studies on it, yada, yada, yada. This other woman comes up and literally just spouts out social justice warrior nonsense, no factual basis to anything at all. It is mind blowing. And keep in mind, she's at Oxford University. This is a university, traditionally probably very liberal. And you can watch the body language when you watch this video, and you can see that she's immediately losing the room from her statements because they're just so absurd. Like, people are trying not to laugh. They're like looking around like, oh my gosh, like, what is this person saying? It's absurd. It's absolute insanity. I'm going to play that video in just one moment, but I also wanted to talk about something I saw on TV, which is these fad diets that really, listen, I want to tell you something. I don't care what you do to get healthy. This is why I promote NSNG. NSNG, no sugar, no grain, is not about losing weight. Sure, it is. Right? Like, that's the core principle of it for sure. Like, they'll say, and it's really not, though. Like, they focus on losing weight, but it's not the core principle. I'll put it to you that way. NSNG is about feeling better. NSNG is about making yourself healthy, because what you eat is very important. You could say, I want to lose weight because I'm fat. Well, okay, that's fine. Fair enough. And there's a million diets out there that you can do where you'll lose weight. But what is sustainable? But not only what is sustainable, which means, can I stay on this diet? Or if I get off this diet, will I plump back up? How long before I get fat again, not being on my diet? And not only is it how sustainable is, meaning how long can I do this diet for before it becomes more of a lifestyle? It's just the way I live now. So it's no longer really a diet, even though it's technically a diet. And then if I cheat a lot, or if I fall off the wagon, how long does it take before the weight starts packing back on? Those are two things. And then the third thing, and what I think is most important, and I think what NSNG is really the core value of it is that how do you feel? How are my energy levels? Do I have inflammation? Do my joints ache? Do I feel tired all the time? Do I feel groggy, foggy headed? Do I just feel miserable? Those are all situations that are, those are all questions that are very important and should be focused around your diet. You should not want to diet just to lose weight. You should want to diet to get yourself in better shape, to be a healthier person all around. That's why I think I always tell people that exercise is not the best way to lose weight. I know, like, what? What do you mean? That doesn't even make sense. I'm telling you, if all you do is exercise and you don't change the way you eat, you're not going to really lose weight. It is going to be a struggle for you unless you have some insane metabolism. Even I have an insane metabolism. Let me tell you something, folks. This is what's crazy. I was an athlete in the Marine Corps. I worked out so much. I ran 3 miles, push-ups, sit-ups, all the good stuff, right? Go on to the gym all the time. I was still gaining weight. And it wasn't necessarily muscle mass. My gut was getting bigger. But I was working out all the time. Why was that happening? It's because my diet didn't change along with my exercise routine. Diet and exercise is a cohesive thing. Exercise is what maintains your body. Okay? The example of the automobile car I gave earlier about Kate's pop-up. Exercise is what keeps the tires filled with air and the battery charged and the oil flowing and everything moving and the parts greased. The exercise is taking the car out of the garage and driving it and making sure it runs well. If you don't exercise, that's like parking the car permanently in the garage. That's what it is. That's what exercise is for. It makes you physically and structurally healthy, right? If you exercise, if you do aerobic exercise, what does that do? It strengthens your lungs and your heart. Really good stuff. if you're doing weight-based exercises, even if it's just your body weight, like push-ups and sit-ups and squats, you're working out your skeletal system. That's good stuff. Stretching is great. It helps with blood flow. It helps with circulation, all that good stuff, yada, yada, yada. That is important, but that is not what's going to help you lose weight. What's going to help you lose weight and maintain your weight is going to be whatever you're eating and whatever you're putting in. But beyond just your weight and how you manage it, it's how you feel. Think about this. You eat a big bowl of pasta, and then afterwards you just feel tired. It's because you just dumped carbs upon carbs in you. Even if it's a small bowl, it's like, well, I limited my portions. You still don't feel good. You may not feel as tired, but you just dumped carbs into your system. Your body has a really hard time dealing with those carbohydrates. And I can guarantee you don't do enough physical activity in the day to deal with those carbs. The bodybuilders that are stuffing their faces with carbs and rice and everything to bulk up, that's because those guys are working out every day for hours and hours. And I can tell you that's probably very damaging to their body long term. The fact of the matter is, what you're putting in is more than just about gaining and losing weight. And that's why I have a huge problem with these fad diets on TV, like Nutrisystem or Optavia. These are programs that are about essentially monitoring the amount of food you take in, but it doesn't monitor the type of food you're putting in because, well, it does in the sense that they are selling you prepackaged meals and they're marketing them as healthy, but it is not healthy. It is a lie. They are deceiving you. The reason why you're losing weight on these diets is because you're eating less. Okay, well, that's all fine and dandy, but the food that you're putting into your body from these companies is poison. It is not good for you. It may seem good for you. I mean, it's the stuff you eat every day, right? And pasta, pizza, and brownies. Let me ask you something. If you go on a diet, and on that diet, they're focusing on things like brownies and pizza, do you really think that that's a diet that's worth its salt? Do you really think that that is something that is good for you? Do you really think in your heart to heart that pizza is good for you? I love pizza. I'd eat pizza every day if I could. I had pizza 2 weeks ago. Yes, I did. I cheated. You know what happened? I felt like crap. I had that pizza and it threw everything off. I swelled up. I couldn't even go to the bathroom. I know that's disgusting to say on this radio, but like it messed up my digestive system for like 3 days. Threw me all out of whack. But I love pizza. And I'll probably cheat again and have pizza again. I'm not going to lie. That's how much I love it. But it's not good for you. And these diet programs are packaging it up and sending it to you. And let me ask you something. Would you eat a Hungry Man? Would you eat a lean cuisine or a TV dinner? You probably wouldn't, right? Because you know that those things are loaded up with preservatives, tons of sodium, generally things that you can't pronounce in terms of whatever's in it. What do you think programs like Optavia, Nutrisystem, what's that other one? It's eluding my brain right now. I was going to talk about 3 that I've been seeing online a lot, and I can't remember what the other one is. But either way, the same thing. Prepackaged food, you eat, that's it's rationed out, but it's not good for you. And in fact, and here I have pulled up here right now. This is from this is from Optavia. This is a prepackaged meal that you can buy. You can buy like a whole, I don't know. I think it's like a month's worth of, they call it fuelings, essential fuelings, which is absolutely ridiculous. All they're doing is dumping carbs into your body. Carbs in, carbs out, or calories in, calories out. That's the rule, right? It doesn't work. It just doesn't work. The moment you stop doing this diet, you're going to fatten up right again. You're going to go right back to where you were. It's not sustainable because do you really want to eat prepackaged pasta for the rest of your life? No. It's not cheap. This box here, this is Essential Rustic Tomato Herb Penne Pasta. It's a box of penne pasta, pre-made stuff. servings per container. It says 7 per. It says 7 servings per container, but and it says 1 serving size is 1 sachet. I don't know what that means. I'm assuming it's a little baggie of food in there. And I know that the problem with these food, okay, well, that's 7 servings, but this diet is a 5-in-1 diet. So you're supposed to eat 6 small meals a day. So this is 7. It's $22 for the box. It's pretty expensive. I think it's $400 for like the whole kit of pre-made food. And you may say, that's not a big deal, Dave. I can eat that pre-made food all day and that's cheap. I mean, 22 divided by 7. Come on, Dave. I hear what you're saying. Here's what I'm saying. I don't care about the price. I don't care about the portion control aspect of it. That is certainly a great way to limit what you're intaking. But what I'm saying is the food that you're putting into your body on these prepackaged meal diets, the foods that they tell you you're allowed to eat, is not good for you, and it's not going to make you feel better long term. You may lose weight, and you may be able to sustainably stay on this diet for the rest of your life, but it's not going to prevent you from problems such as inflammation, Alzheimer's, dementia, high blood sugar, low blood sugar, type 2 diabetes, insulin resistance, these problems that come up in the foods that we eat. So in this box of rustic tomato herb penne, and I am very, very against this because they market it as low fat, high in protein. Let me tell you something. That's wrong. It's not backwards. It's half right. It should be high in fat, high in protein, no carbohydrates. That's the proper way to do it. Those carbs aren't going to help you. Those carbs are going to bog you down, tire you out, and more than likely get transferred into fat stored in your body. The ingredients in this stuff it reads like a science experiment. It's weird. Ingredients to this pasta: textured soy protein concentrate, enriched pasta. It lists what the pasta is made out of. Semolina wheat, niacin, ferrous sulfate, thiamine mononitrate, riboflavin, folic acid, tomato powder, inulin, modified food starch, salt, mozzarella cheese. Here's the kicker. This is where this stuff, because all that before, not so bad, probably on paper. It's the carbs, it's pasta, big deal. Well, it is a big deal, but this is where I start to laugh because I'm like, okay, here we go. Ready? Brown sugar. Bing. Really? Brown sugar? Canola oil. That's a poison. We've talked about that before. If you haven't heard my podcast, go back to processed oils are killing you. And then it's got some other stuff like garlic powder, onion powder, natural flavors, paprika, basil, oregano, xanthium gum, black pepper, and they put some probiotic in it. Let's look at the nutrition facts because that reads horribly to me. The brown sugar and the canola oil is enough to throw that stuff in the trash. 2 grams of fat, that's it. 0.5 milligrams of saturated fat. No cholesterol. Sodium is 370 milligrams of sodium. It's 16% of your daily intake of sodium right there. Not so bad if that, sodium. Here's the thing with salt, folks. Salt's not the enemy. People think, oh, you got to consume less salt. Actually, the reality is you need to have a certain amount of salt in your diet. This especially affects elderly people because elderly people are told by their doctors, don't consume salt. So what do? They cut salt completely out of their diet. Then their body has a problem with fluid retention. They tend to dehydrate and pass out. It happens all the time. Anyway, dietary fiber, 6 grams. Total sugars, 3 grams of sugar. Includes 1 gram of added sugar. And then, of course, the protein. The carbohydrate, 15 grams of carbs in that. Now, why are carbs bad? Well, let's bring it up. Carbies. Let's see if I can find it real quick. I'm not sure if I can or not. Du-du-du-du. I lost my note for it that I was going to read it off, but unfortunately, so I probably am not going to be able to find it right away for you folks, but that's okay. Oh, no, can't find it. No big deal. We just want to avoid the carbs, and this is a diet here. The Nutrisystem's bad about it. I mean, the Nutrisystem literally advertises you eating chocolate cake. Do you really think if you are, listen, I understand if you're somebody who's like, man, I'm 15 pounds overweight. I just want to shred it. You don't even need to use this diet. If you're 15 pounds overweight, then you can cut back on your own. And I would recommend you eating healthy, fresh foods, like eating meat and vegetables and fruits. Stick with that. Stay away from the pasta and the pizza and all the processed stuff and the boxed food. The last thing I would ever tell you is to go into a prepackaged food diet program, regardless of, the merit of it and what they think is good for you or what isn't good for you. This stuff is, I mean, for crying out loud, on the list of ingredients, it literally says, where'd it go? Here it is. So it literally says on the bottom, contains bioengineered food ingredients. So I had to look that up. I said, well, what the hell do they mean by bioengineered? What the hell is bioengineered food ingredients? And so the USDA has a definition of bio-grade food ingredients. And it states, hold on a second. Here we go. It says here, what is bioengineered food? Food that contains genetic material that has been modified through certain laboratory techniques and for which the modification could not be obtained through conventional breeding or found in nature. Do you really think that that is healthy for you? Listen, I understand there's science. I understand that we have made movements in the medical world, in the medical field, and that not everything in a laboratory is bad. I understand that, but let me ask you something. Do you really believe that something and I looked it up. I said, what's what falls under bioengineered food? Well, one thing is processed oils, sugars, what else? Lots of crackers are considered that. And so you have to be really careful about what you're consuming. And look, not all bioengineered food may be bad because, USDA has a very kind of loose and fast. They're very loose and fast with the text. So they may put that on their label for something like olive oil, which is ridiculous, but they may, I don't know. It's a new terminology that they're putting on labels, and this one has it. Here's what I'm trying to get at. You should want to lose weight if you're overweight, and that's fine. Fair enough. That's good. And maybe these food diets will do that. But how will you feel long term? How do you think you'll feel long term eating processed foods and eating carb dumping and consuming things with sugar and high amounts of sodium? Do you really think that that's the long-term solution to your health? And the answer is no, it's not. You're not going to do this diet forever. And these are what I like to call starvation diets most of the time. You eat 6 small meals a day. You're eating tiny little meals. And to me, it comes across as a starvation diet, because what's going to happen is when you're consuming these carbs and these sugars, it messes with the chemical reaction in your body. I don't know the technical term. I wish I did. I'm not entirely fluent in it, but what it is it's basically a chemical in your body that tells you when you're hungry and when you're full. Okay. The problem with carbohydrates, and this is also true with like starchy foods like potatoes, is that it throws off your system in that your body cannot properly regulate whether it's full or not. So what tends to happen is you can eat like a bowl of pasta, or for instance, this happens with rice. People think, oh, like with Chinese food, this is a really big deal because rice has this issue a lot. So people think, oh, if you eat rice, it puffs up in your stomach and it fills you up. No, that's not what's happening. It's the chemicals in the rice mixing with the system in your body that tells you when you're full or not. But what happens is it spikes that, but that's why you're hungry again a little bit later, because your body's like, oh, wait a minute. No, we're not actually full. And then it kind of reverses itself. It's kind of hard to explain, but that's the issue when you're eating rice and pasta and all that stuff it throws off that regulatory system. When you're on NSNG and you've done it for a few weeks, what it does is it basically mellows out and levels out your system, and that you stop getting these hunger cravings. You stop getting sugar cravings. You'll stop having this desire to eat cake or this desire to eat pasta and bread and things of that nature. But you'll also have you won't have these weird fluctuations in blood sugar. You ever hear someone say like, oh, my blood sugar dropped? So you're not going to have those issues. You will continue to have those issues with this diet, with this diet, these prepackaged meal diets, these starvation diets. These diets are like, well, we're going to limit you down to a very small portion of food, but it's not a good portion of food. Well, sure, it's nutrient dense because we dumped a bunch of vitamins and minerals in it. And we put some whey protein. And by the way, we dosed a little probiotic in there. But this substance of it, after all is said and done, it's not good. It's a carb dump diet. You're going to be hungry again very soon. It's not sustainable. The moment you start to get away from it, you're going to bloat up right again. All the time, these people are like, oh, I lost 30 pounds on this diet. Look at me. Well, guess what? In like 4 months, you're going to be back with that. That weight's going to pack back on more than likely. You're going to fall flat. You're going to stray away from the dietary plan. And when you do, you'll get fat again. The reality is with NSNG, because everybody always tells me this, oh, Dave, it's so restrictive. It's so restrictive. I can't do it, man. I love my breads. I love my pastas. I love all this stuff. Listen, this is what I tell everybody. If you're metabolically unstable, if you're somebody who has type 2 diabetes, you're in fear of losing limbs, you have insulin resistance, something's wrong with you medically to the point where you really have no choice but to go full send on this, and your life just has to change. You made poor choices early on in life, or maybe you were just born this way and it sucks. And I apologize if that's the case. But the fact of the matter is you have to go full send. You need to be willing to make that jump and that risk. Otherwise you could lose your life. That's not a good deal. But if you're someone who's not that way, then set a goal for yourself. Say, listen, I want to do this because I want to lose weight, but I also want to be healthy. Okay, well, what weight do you want to lose? Well, I want to lose 50 pounds. Cool. How long do you think, realistically, it's going to take you to lose 50 pounds on doing NSNG? Hardcore, full-time, no cheating at all. Realistically, 50 pounds, let's say you're a male, generally speaking, you were skinny growing up, you're active, maybe you're going to exercise too. It could take 4 to 5 months, maybe. Who knows? I don't know. But the reality is, okay, this is what I'll do. I'll do it for 3 months, hardcore, no cheating. And my goal is to lose half of that weight. I'm going to lose 25 pounds in 3 months and get healthy. And then at the end of those 3 months, I'll weigh myself. If I lost the 25 pounds and I feel good, I'm going to go cheat. I'm going to go have a big old slice of pizza. Cool. Do it. That's what I do. Because I'm not metabolic. Like I'm going to live. I'm still going to go out and have the food I enjoy. But first I had to reach my goals. I lost the weight I want to lose. I'm down 182 pounds. I'm feeling a lot better. My energy's coming back. I'm feeling good about myself. So from now and then, and here's the thing, my cheating happens bi-weekly sometimes. Sometimes I have 2 days in a row just because sometimes my wife bakes some cookies and I can't resist it. They can happen. It's okay. The difference is because you're in this state of ketosis, right? You're going really, really hard. And you're saying, I have been eating nothing. I have not had any grains, no sugar, no carbohydrates in my diet. So that one day that you cheat, it's not going to like reverse everything you did. You know what I mean? In fact, you could cheat for probably 2 or 3 days to a week. In a week, maybe will probably throw you off a little bit. It'll take you out of ketosis, and that would kind of suck. But like 1 or 2 days, or like one meal, especially if it's just one meal out of that day. Let's say you have one cookie. You're like, oh man, my wife baked chocolate chip cookies. I'm going to have one cookie. I'm just going to eat it. Delicious. That's not going to ruin you. It's not going to ruin anybody. It's probably not going to really ruin the guy that's avoiding type 2 diabetes. But what it could do is there are a lot of people who are addicted to sugar, like it's a drug. So you may want to avoid that altogether. But, that's a case-by-case basis. But I tell people all the time, like, listen, I know it sounds restrictive. I know it sounds crazy. But what you're trying to do is you're trying to change your life up a little bit. You're trying to get yourself back on track, get yourself onto a metabolically stable platform. And once you've done that and you've checked some of those goals, you're going to feel good about yourself. And then you can have days where you go out and, have Italian and eat pasta. You can have days where you go eat Mexican. Those days can happen, and you know what's going to be great? You're not going to feel bad about it because one, it's not going to change anything. That one cheat's not going to change anything. And two, you've already put in the work. You've done everything you've done. You look good. You feel better. And truth be told, it's very likely that by the time you've checked all those boxes, you may not even want to eat any of that stuff ever again because you just don't want to go back to feeling the way you did when you ate all that. So my thing is this: if you're going to do a diet, first off, figure out why you want to do it. Do you want to lose weight? If that's the only reason, then you really want to do something that's going to be sustainable long term. And I know people say that NSNG doesn't seem sustainable because it's so restrictive, but it's really not. Not for the people that are average. Not for the average, overweight American who just needs to stop cramming, fast food down their throat. You know what I'm saying? But for the people who are really sick, this is a diet that can help reverse a lot of that and get you on the right path, certainly. And you'll have to be very strict on yourself about it. But this isn't something that's going to be, changed. You're not punishing yourself for the rest of your life. That's not what this is about. But what you'll know is consciously when you're going into any meal, you know exactly what's good for you and what's not good for you. You know exactly what you should limit and how much you should consume of that per month. Focus on a high fat, mainly saturated fat, right? And a high protein diet. So be eating a lot of meat, lots of vegetables, very few fruits. The best fruits you can eat, cherries and berries. Those are really good fruits for you. Eat those if you're going to eat fruit. And that's what you should focus on. There's no numbers. There's no, well, I ate this, so now I've got to deduct these points. There's no like, oh, well, my diet requires me to eat 5 meals a day and I can only eat this little portion and it's mostly pasta and it tastes like garbage because it was pre-made in a box. And quite frankly, after I eat it, I'm still really hungry and I hate this diet because I'm still hungry. And, I just don't, I'm not happy about it. And I don't feel any better because my hands are still swollen. My joints still hurt. I still feel tired. It's just that simple. No sugar, no grain. Very easy. When you've checked your boxes and you've hit your goals and you're metabolically stable and you're not somebody in poor health, then you can go back to doing what you're doing within moderation. That's the beauty of it. Like, I was listening to the Adam Carolla show the other day and he was like, man, I love quiche. I love quiche too, by the way. And quiche is like this egg dish. It's got like cheese and eggs and ham, all things that are NSNG. But the problem is quiche also has like this little puff pastry kind of pie crust at the bottom of it. And so Adam Carolla was like, I really want to have quiche. So he called up Vinny Tortorich, who's the founder of NSNG. He said, look, man, I really want to have quiche. Am I allowed to like have quiche every once in a while? And Vinny Tortorich said this, and then it was like, yeah, that's awesome. That was one of the reasons why it was like, I love this diet. I'm all in. Vinny was like, listen, you're not, he goes, the people who need to be strict on this diet are the ones that are metabolically unstable and unhealthy and have pre-existing conditions. He goes, you are not one of those people. So if you want to have a piece of quiche, by all means. He goes, now, don't eat quiche every day, but if you want to have a piece of quiche, tomorrow and then maybe again in a few weeks, that's fine. He says, it's not going to kill you. It's not going to throw you off your diet. You'll be fine. And that's the lesson to be heard. It's like, if you're doing everything you're supposed to do and you're on track and you're checking the boxes, then the one little piece of quiche is not going to kill you. So that's why I like this diet. It's worked for me. I feel great. I fit in my dress blues again. I have energy. My swelling's down. My legs don't hurt. My knees don't hurt. My hands don't hurt. I could put on my wedding ring for the first time in 4 years. Fits my finger again. And the beauty of this diet is I don't feel restricted in any way. I really don't. And I'm the guy who loves pasta. I'm a guy who loves sweets. Like I said, I could eat pizza every day. I love pizza. It's one of my favorite foods. But I don't feel sad. In fact, I don't even crave it. Half the time I'm like, no, I'm good. I don't want it. You know, people make biscuits and stuff. I'm like, no, I don't want it. I just don't want it because I don't desire to have it. My body's not craving those carbs. It just doesn't want it. You know, I actually find myself craving meat. I want to eat some more meat. I had pork chops. I grilled some pork chops the other day. They're so damn good. I was like, man, I want to grill them again the next day. But I was like, I can't do that. So, 4 days later, I grilled some more pork chops again and they were good. But, man, I went on a long-winded rant on this one. When I saw it, it really, like, I'm like, this is not good. This is a false bill of goods being sold to people. And on that note, actually, too, because I wanted to talk a little bit about this. We may have to get to the Oxford lady later this week. In fact, I think that's what we'll do. We will do for Thursday's episode. We're gonna continue this conversation. We're gonna break down the Oxford Union woman's speech because we're at 120 on this, and I think we're gonna push this episode a little too long. What was I looking up? Oh yeah. So I saw this the other day because I'm talking about diet, and I'm always talking about on this podcast, and people I know, obviously Facebook and Instagram are listening to me. And they sent me an advertisement for this company called Magic Spoon Cereal. And I was like, Magic Spoon Cereal? What the heck is this? I'm like, I love cereal. Man, when I was a kid, loved cereal. I still love cereal. You know what's funny about cereal? I realized this, like, as an adult. I would eat cereal and I'm like, oh, so good, right? And you feel pretty full, right? You leave. This is, again, carb dumping, sugars and carbs. Well, this is what it does to you. It's like, oh, I'm full and I'm ready to go. I leave the house, and with like an hour and a half, 2 hours, I was hungry again. And in some cases, like, I felt tired. I felt run down. I didn't feel fulfilled. Cereal is like, I cut it out altogether. I was like, nope, can't eat cereal because it literally is doing nothing for me, and it makes me feel like crap, and half the time I get sick off of it. So anyway, I saw this Magic Spoon cereal company. I'm thinking, oh, I'm like, what is this? So I looked into it, and I would wager to tell you folks that this stuff is probably as bad or worse than normal cereal. And maybe not, but it's equally as bad. I'll put it to you that way. Here's the ingredients. And by the way, I read the ingredients list and I was like, where's the substance of this food, right? Because, like, when you have cereal, it's just grain. It's either wheat or corn or something, and it's pulverized into a shape or something or whatever. Like, that's the substance of it. It's like the meat of it, right? So when you have that's your like the substance of the cereal, and then they add things like sugar or vitamins and whatever else, and foods that help, or chemicals that help it keep from getting stale and all that stuff. But the substance, the actual, like, the thing you're swallowing the most of is the grain of the cereal. So the ingredients are a milk protein blend. It's a casein and whey protein concentrate, a blend of high oleic sunflower oil and avocado oil, monk fruit juice, allulose, tapioca starch, inulin, salt, and natural flavors. That's the ingredients. Now ask yourself, yeah, but how does, and listen, when you look at this, it looks like Fruit Loops. It looks like, chocolate puff cereal. So I'm like, well, I sent them a message. I was like, what exactly replaces the wheat/corn? Because that's obviously the substance, the makeup of cereal. So what is that? Like, what is it that you're actually eating? And so first of all, whenever a company responds to you first with saying a whole lot of magic, you need to know, like, okay, this is bullshit. Because that's how the first sentence is a whole lot of magic, but also milk protein blend. And she listed off the exact same ingredients listed I already read. And I was like, I literally responded with, please don't insult me by responding with a whole lot of magic. You repeated the ingredients list, which I read prior to asking my question. The reason I ask is because much of what you listed is of little substance, which it is. It's like, this is just like a bunch of gobbledygook pressed into a form of a oat to simulate, the stuff you get from grain. So, and many of the items on this list are known to be problematic for people's health. This isn't any better than regular cereal, and I think you're misleading people because their thing is, why would you ever eat regular cereal again? 13 grams of protein, 4 grams of net carbs, less than $2 per serving. Tastes like your childhood favorites, 25,000 plus 5-star reviews. They're claiming it's healthier and better for you than regular cereal, but it's really not. I mean, the sunflower oil is enough for me to run for the hills. The casein protein is problematic. Whey protein is problematic because whey protein can cause a lot of digestive issues. So you got to be careful there. And then you've got a whole list of things that don't make allulose, tapioca starch. Tapioca starch is basically flour from a different plant. Allulose is an artificial sweetener, which, by the way, everybody always asks me this. They ask me this all the time on my diet. They go, well, what about stevia? What about all these non-sugar based sweeteners? Your body treats stevia and those artificial sweeteners the same way it treats sugar. So it's the exact same thing. It's just a gimmick. Oh, it's not white sugar. Your body treats it the same way. So it's a big no-no on my diet. And frankly, I would rather just eat sugar. I would rather eat pure cane sugar than anything else. Like, it's like, I know what I'm getting there versus an artificial sweetener or a stevia or an allulose. So there you go. I saw that and just laughed. And so I forwarded it to Vinny, and they're going to talk about it on their podcast, I think, eventually. So I'll keep my eyes out. Hopefully Vinny responds to it. I haven't listened to his podcast in a while, but we'll see if he responds. He said he was going to. They're going to look into it. So I was, this is funny. This is kind of off the cuff, but I was reading my comments from Instagram, and so I was closing it out. And the first thing that it went to my feed as I was closing it all out, and the Babylon Bee had a post, and it shows Putin here rubbing his forehead, and it says Putin delays invasion again as he has a dentist appointment today, and he's already rescheduled twice. That's only funny because if you're an adult, you've done that. I do that with my chiropractor. All this, like, I know I got to go. I've already rescheduled 2 times. Listen, folks, we are going to discuss Oxford Union debate. Michaela Peterson and this other lady who's a vegan. We're going to break down what she had to say about meat and why she thinks it's bad for us. I promise you, she gives you no scientific evidence at all. I'm not making that up. I'm being dead serious. And so I will play that on Thursday. That might be a shorter episode. It won't be an hour and 30 minutes. We covered quite a bit today, but you know what? There's quite a bit going on. There's quite a bit going on in the world today. So sometimes these episodes will go long. I don't really mind. Do you? Let me know. Hit me up. Hit me up at Davidking.therant@gmail.com or hit me up on social media. I'd love to hear from you. Love to know what you think and what you think about the show. And maybe you have some opinions about these starvation diets and Putin and everything else. But on that note, folks, I will talk to you later. Have a great night.
Emotional damage.